Counter to most nationalist movements, we often see nationalism fade over generations. Why has the Khalistan movement done the opposite in the diaspora, often becoming louder with the second and third generations?
The experiences were so traumatic for the Sikh community, for the families. So many families were deeply involved in it. And again, it wasn't just the men going off to war or something. It was whole families that were involved in the traumas of 1984. Obviously, the events of Operation Blue Star involved children and wives who were there on a pilgrimage during the attack. So thousands of women and children died in that incident. Likewise, in the genocide of later that year. Again, it involved whole families. It wasn't just young men, it was women and children. Women were gang raped. Children were literally murdered in front of their parents. So again, it had this huge sort of devastating impact. And as a result of that, it's different from, let's say, the war generation of the Second World War, where, the men who experienced it tended to sort of be quite tight-lipped about it. They didn't really want to talk about it. They kept the trauma, as men do, they sort of kept the trauma inside themselves. Because whole families were involved, it was a collective feeling that then naturally, just through normal social interaction as a family, it was passed down to the next generations. And again, the trauma was felt so deeply that the elder generation said, we must never forget. We must not let our younger generations not know about the dreadful crimes that were perpetrated against Sikhs during that time of the 1980s and of course the 1990s, and the extrajudicial killings that happened. So again, I think this is a bond that transcends generations. It is a bond of, again, collective trauma that needed and needs to be passed down to generations. We often talk about it in our perspective show, actually. So we have a responsibility, we older generations do have a responsibility to ensure that the younger generations know what has happened in their family's past. Again, because there are so many living survivors of these events. They weren't that long ago, let's not forget. So there are survivors of these events. And it is beholden on us to make sure the young generation know about these things. And of course, the young generation, they're enthusiastic. They soak up this information, and they are being young. They are passionate. They're always looking for something to be motivated and feel passionate about. As a youngster, youngsters are always looking for for something to sort of feel passionate about. And this, of course, does ignite their passion because it's so inherent in their own being, their own culture, their own families. So it's unsurprising then that as the generations pass, is that this feeling, certainly, firstly, to support the whole survival of the Sikh culture and identity, but it's also remembering what's happened, but it is also the future. It is looking at the future. The young obviously are our future, and giving the young a goal for the future. What better future than Khalistan? You can, as a young generation, be the vanguard of the new nation of Khalistan. Who wouldn't be behind that?